It was the view, very firm view of archaeologists, that there had been no megalithic architecture. And when I say megalithic, I mean literally big stones, stone circles, huge constructions, nothing like that before 6,000 years ago. Baalbek, which is located in Lebanon, and I had the great privilege of going there in September of last year, exactly 1 month before things kicked off in Israel. But Baalbek, if there was one example, one ancient site on Earth that is evidence of a lost ancient advanced civilization. Lebanon has remained one of the most enduring mysteries on planet Earth. No cranes, no machines, yet stones heavier than jumbo jets. How did ancient builders move them? I just delivered an answer that changes everything. Baalbek, Lebanon, home to the largest stones ever quarried by human hands. For decades, the world has speculated about how such colossal blocks were cut, moved, and placed with impossible precision. Like, what is the weight of that? What's the overall weight? So, that's 1.7 million pounds each of them. There's 3 of them. Was it human genius, lost technology, or something we've never even considered? Now, thanks to cutting-edge AI analysis, this ancient mystery might finally have an answer. And it's far stranger than we imagined. What it discovered will make you question every history book you've ever read. Let's get into it. This is the real mystery of Baalbek. How these stones came to be there, why they were placed there, and specifically how they were transported into place. The stones that shouldn't exist. You're standing in the Bekaa Valley of Lebanon, staring up at stones so massive that they make modern construction equipment look like children's toys. These aren't your average building blocks. We're talking about the trilithon, 3 limestone megaliths that each weigh around 800 tons. That's 1.6 million pounds per stone. To put this in perspective, the largest stones used in the Great Pyramid of Egypt weigh about 80 tons. The trilithon stones are 10 times heavier. The heaviest stone ever moved in modern times using machinery was about 340 tons for a bridge in China. And that required specialized hydraulic vehicles and months of planning. Yet somehow somewhere between 1000 BCE and 100 CE, ancient builders not only quarried these behemoths but transported them over a quarter mile and lifted them 20 feet into the air to form the foundation of the Temple of Jupiter. Each weigh between 800 to 1,200 tons, and they fit together so perfectly that you can't slip a piece of paper between them. But here's where it gets absolutely wild. In the quarry nearby, there's an even bigger stone called the Stone of the Pregnant Woman, weighing an estimated 1,000 tons. And beneath that, another stone discovered in 2014 that weighs approximately 1,650 tons, making it the largest carved stone block ever discovered anywhere on Earth. The question that has haunted archaeologists for generations is simple yet profound. How some of the stones are of such magnitude that modern machinery is incapable of putting them there. But somehow our ancestors were able to do this. Before we dive into what AI discovered, we need to understand what makes Baalbek so enigmatic in the first place. The site has layers of history stacked like an archaeological lasagna, and each layer adds another mystery to the pile. The Romans built their magnificent temple complex here around 15 BCE. But here's the thing that keeps researchers up at night. The massive stone platform they built on. The one containing those impossible trilithon stones doesn't match Roman engineering anywhere else in their empire. The Romans were brilliant builders, no doubt, but this foundation seems beyond even their capabilities. Local legends tell a different story. Some traditions claim that Baalbek, which the Romans called Heliopolis or City of the Sun, was actually built by biblical giants. The Nephilim mentioned in ancient texts. Others whisper that King Solomon himself ordered jinn, supernatural beings, to construct it using magic. King Solomon is an intriguing figure because the Bible makes so many claims about him, controlling vast amounts of territory. The Phoenicians had a temple here dedicated to Baal, the storm god, long before the Romans arrived. But even they seem to have been built on top of something older. Archaeological evidence suggests human activity at this site stretching back to the early Bronze Age around 3000 BCE or possibly earlier. What's fascinating is that nobody can definitively say who built the original platform. The Romans modified it, sure, but the foundation itself, especially those megaliths, remains an attribution mystery. Some researchers have proposed that an earlier unknown civilization created this base, and later cultures simply built on top of their work. This lack of concrete answers has fueled speculation for centuries, and that speculation is about to get a whole lot more interesting. Baalbek, as we know from the archaeological evidence, must have existed during the period between 6 to 8,000 years or even 9,000 years BC. Let's talk to modern engineers about Baalbek and you'll watch their faces transform from confidence to confusion in real time. These are people who design skyscrapers and bridges, who understand stress loads and material science, and even they can't definitively explain how the trilithon was constructed. The engineering challenges are staggering. First, quarrying. How do you cut an 800-ton block from solid limestone using Bronze Age or early Iron Age technology? The precision required is insane. These stones have smooth surfaces and clean edges. They were shaped deliberately, not just hacked out of the ground. Second, transportation. The quarry is about 1,300 feet from the temple site. That might not sound like much, but try to imagine moving 3 million pounds across that distance. Modern cranes can lift maybe 200 tons safely. Even our biggest mobile cranes max out around 1,200 tons under perfect conditions, and they require perfectly flat reinforced surfaces. The terrain between the quarry and the temple isn't flat. It has variations in elevation. So these stones would need to be moved uphill at certain points. The amount of friction alone would be astronomical. If you tried to drag an 800-ton stone, you'd need to overcome incredible resistance, even with rollers or sledges. Third, placement. These stones aren't sitting on the ground. They're lifted approximately 20 feet up and positioned with such accuracy that the joints between them are nearly invisible. The precision is comparable to modern machining standards. One engineer calculated that positioning these stones would require controlling their movement to within fractions of an inch. Fourth, the tooling problem. The ancient builders would have needed bronze or copper tools. These metals are relatively soft. Limestone is much harder. The tools would wear down quickly, requiring constant replacement. The logistics of tool production alone would be a massive undertaking. Some engineers have proposed that thousands of workers using ropes, rollers, and ramps could theoretically accomplish this task. But the calculations keep running into problems. The number of workers needed becomes impractical. The ramps would need to be enormous, leaving archaeological evidence that we've never found. It's this combination of factors that makes Baalbek such a compelling mystery. Any one of these challenges could be overcome with enough time and resources, but all of them together, that's where the real puzzle begins. And Baalbek has the largest stones that were ever quarried in human history, the largest stones ever lifted, stacked, and transported in human history, and the largest stone columns in all of classical history. Over the years, people have thrown every possible explanation at Baalbek, ranging from scientifically plausible to absolutely bonkers. Let's run through some of the most popular theories because understanding what people have already proposed helps us appreciate what AI has now discovered. This is the mainstream archaeological position. Massive numbers of workers, perhaps tens of thousands, using wooden rollers, sledges, ropes, and pure muscle power, moved these stones over many years. It's definitely possible in theory, though the math gets fuzzy when you try to work out the details. Some researchers suggest that ancient civilizations possessed construction techniques or tools that have been lost to history. Maybe they had some form of advanced metallurgy. Or perhaps they understood leverage and mechanical advantage in ways we haven't rediscovered. This theory has some merit, though evidence is scarce. A few researchers have proposed that these stones might actually be some form of ancient concrete poured in place rather than carved and moved. This would solve the transportation problem entirely. However, geological analysis consistently shows these are cut limestone blocks, not manufactured material. This is where things get interesting. Some theorists propose that ancient builders understood sound frequencies and could use acoustic levitation to move massive objects. There are examples of acoustic levitation in modern physics, but scaling it to 800 tons is purely speculative. Still, it's a fascinating idea. Another fringe theory suggests the use of electromagnetic forces or anti-gravity technology. Proponents point to ancient texts that describe flying vehicles and mysterious power sources. Mainstream science remains unconvinced, but it captures the imagination. Yes, we have to mention it. Ancient alien theorists have long claimed that Baalbek is evidence of alien visitation. They argue that only beings with advanced technology could have built such a structure. While there is no credible evidence for this, it remains a popular explanation in certain circles. Based on ancient legends, some people believe that giants, beings much larger and stronger than modern humans, constructed Baalbek. Ancient texts from multiple cultures mention giants, but physical evidence of such beings has never been found. This suggests that different groups separated by centuries each contributed to Baalbek. The foundation might be incredibly ancient, built by a sophisticated prehistoric culture, then modified by Phoenicians, then Romans, creating a palimpsest of construction techniques. Each theory has its supporters and detractors. Each addresses some aspects of the mystery while leaving others unexplained. But now AI has entered the conversation, and its analysis is revealing patterns that human researchers missed completely. The Bekaa Valley. Here at this archaeological site stand the ruins of Heliopolis. Here's where things get absolutely mind-blowing. When researchers fed comprehensive data about Baalbek into advanced AI systems, including detailed measurements, material analysis, and historical context, the AI started identifying patterns that human researchers had completely missed. The first major discovery was about the quarrying technique. The AI determined that the stones weren't cut using the methods archaeologists had assumed. By analyzing microscopic tool marks on the stone surfaces and comparing them to patterns from various cutting techniques, the AI concluded that the ancient builders used a water-based cutting method that was far more sophisticated than previously believed. The AI suggested that workers likely used a technique involving water channels, bronze saws with abrasive slurries, and a deep understanding of limestone's natural fracture planes. This method would have been slower than direct chiseling, but would have produced the incredibly smooth surfaces we see on the trilithon stones. The AI calculated that this technique could reduce the workforce needed by potentially 40% compared to previous estimates.